Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're undertaking a pretty profound intellectual journey. We're going to completely shift our perspective, moving away from that exhausting, everyday burnout of productivity pressure and moving toward a state of genuine, authentic mastery. This entire explainer is really about one thing: clarity. We're stripping away all the mental clutter to prioritize pure conceptual understanding. And we're going to give you a clear, structural blueprint for how to truly own your work and, honestly, your attention. So, let's talk about authentic control. In our hyper-fast, AI-driven world, the word control kind of gets a bad rap, doesn't it? We usually picture it as this restrictive, outside pressure, just a constant nagging demand to do more, produce faster, and basically just keep up with the machine. But today, we are completely redefining that concept. Authentic control is absolutely not an external force pushing down on you. Instead, as we'll see, it's this internal, highly stable architecture that actually protects your human meaning, your unique expression, and your strategic judgment. Here is the blueprint for where we're heading today. First, the Great Divide. Second, the danger of mechanical optimization. Third, the kinetic pivot. Fourth, architecting stable freedom. And finally, returning with meaning. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the Great Divide. Basically, we're dealing with two completely opposite directions of force here. On one side, we have pressure. Pressure is an outside-in force. It's imposed on you by external metrics, demanding relentless speed and output, and it inherently makes you fear mistakes because, well, a mistake means you aren't keeping up, right? On the flip side, we have authentic control. This is a constructive, inside-out force. It grows from within you, actually shaping your true capability over time. In this state, mistakes aren't threats at all. They're actually highly useful diagnostic tools that tell you exactly where the edge of your learning is. See, external pressure literally compresses you. It forces you into this rigid state of mere survival, pushing all your behavior inward. But authentic control? It's entirely different. It expands outward. It doesn't crush the individual. Rather, it allows you to expand the system from the inside out through a deliberate internal choice to truly own the structure. Which brings us to Section 2, the danger of mechanical optimization. So there's this massive trap we often fall into called mechanical optimization. It's essentially a system that prizes efficiency, but completely strips away the meaning. You might be checking boxes incredibly fast, or actually, scratch that. Maybe you're spending 2 hours tweaking a spreadsheet's formatting instead of doing the actual analysis. Sure, you're achieving short-term performance, but you're merely complying with external demands. You aren't building true, adaptable human capability. You're really just trying not to drown in all the output. When we try to control variation just for the sake of speed, without any real meaning behind it, it stops being helpful and becomes rigid domination. Efficiency without purpose isn't mastery, guys. It's a cage. Think about it. A top-tier researcher or an artist doesn't structure their knowledge or their craft to eliminate thought. No way. They structure it to empower their thought. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. The kinetic pivot. Okay, picture this. When we don't have a proper internal architecture, we just get bombarded by meaningless noise. And this leads directly to confusion. Because we're confused, our attention gets entirely consumed by constant repair. We're fixing minor errors, dealing with hesitation, managing defects. And that leaves us, well, simply surviving. In this horizontal state of struggle, you have zero cognitive energy left for deep thought or strategy. Why? Because literally 100% of your energy is being spent just trying to stay afloat. But here's the good news. We can escape this trap through what we call the kinetic pivot. What we do is take that horizontal struggle, the noise, the confusion, the repair, and we pass it through a filter. This filter is diagnostic practice. By practicing and creating stable structures, we effectively filter out that meaningful noise. And what happens next is amazing. That massive amount of cognitive energy you were previously wasting on mere survival is suddenly freed up. It pivots upward. You achieve vertical lift, totally redirecting your attention into judgment, strategic focus, unique expression, and ultimately, meaningful freedom. Now, what's really interesting to see here is that we do not reduce variation just to become mindless robots. That is a huge misconception. We reduce meaningless noise, the scattered ideas, the inconsistent terminology, the technical defects, specifically to clear the space needed for human interpretation, deep phrasing, and real conceptual choice. We're clearing the brush so you can actually see the forest. All right, Section 4, architecting stable freedom. The economics of human attention are actually pretty simple. When meaningless variation is weighing your system down,
It leaves absolutely zero available attention for higher order meaning. But as practice shrinks that meaningless variation, the balance dramatically shifts. Your attention stops fighting all those uncontrolled variables, and this glowing core of cognitive space just opens up for conceptual choice and deep flow.
And this brilliantly illustrates the complete paradigm shift we need to make. If your personal motto is keep up and your focus is purely on output, you are totally stuck in mechanical optimization. That just leads to short-term compliance and, eventually, system overflow. But if you shift your motto to, what can I truly own? Wow. Now your focus becomes the conversion of external structure into internalized capability. Mistakes suddenly become diagnostic information right at your learning edge. And the final outcome isn't constant anxiety, it's long-term ownership and stable freedom. So think of this architecture in two distinct layers. The foundation is where you've controlled the variation and stabilized the structure. Floating right above that is the open space for human choice. Structured reliability is not a cage that traps you. Rather, it is the stable launchpad absolutely required to allow for unique human expression. Without that rock-solid foundation below, the free movement above is simply impossible. Finally, Section 5, Returning with Meaning. You can almost think of this as the modern formula for human capability. First, AI builds the structure. Let's face it, it's incredibly good at providing a scaffold and taking away the terror of the blank page. Second, your human practice makes it reliable. You're the one testing the AI structure against reality, timing, and fatigue. But it's this third point that is everything. Meaning makes it mine. An AI can give you a perfect scaffold, sure, but it cannot give you the reason to stay. True ownership only emerges when you, the practitioner, choose to return to the structure because it inherently matters to you. I want you to really take a second to absorb this next thought. Control is not forcing. Control is returning with meaning. Mastery is defined not by how hard you can force an output, but by your ability to reshape a structure under pressure, to revise it, to live within it, and to still recognize it as genuinely your own. So the crucial point is this. Authentic control is, at its core, a process of self-shaping. When you finally strip away all that artificial pressure and the mechanical optimization, what you're left with is the pure space to exercise your human judgment. You aren't being pushed anymore. You are choosing to return. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. As we navigate this wild era of limitless, instant structure provided by machines, the choice is entirely yours. Will you use these tools merely to chase artificial speed, churning out output that you barely even recognize? Or will you use them to find your honest learning point, to filter out the noise, and to truly discover the edge of your own capabilities? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this helps you build your own architecture of stable freedom.